So today we're talking with Luke about his experience with Annemieke and Livewell Hypnotherapy. Thank you so much again, Luke, for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Um, yeah, could you maybe just briefly introduce yourself and share your situation prior to meeting Annemieke, or perhaps what prompted you from seeking help from her?
Absolutely. Um, so I was undergoing uh some long story short, I had some health complications that caused me to sort of reevaluate my life and what I was doing. And once I got those issues solved, I figured I was decided for whatever reason to do a diploma in commercial skydiving. Just for something different and fun,
It's very
and
different.
very different, yeah. And I was there, so I was living across from the airfield, and after weeks and weeks of theory and learning and technical stuff, obviously the time comes where you need to start jumping. And the first one or two were okay, but um, I was really struggling with it. Um, just because I don't know, it was difficult, and I was, incredibly anxious and stressed, and I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. And I was lying there in my room thinking, boy, what have I gotten myself into? Um, so, and of course, it was something I wanted to do because it was fun and exciting, but just was struggling, obviously with the fear factor, and there was a bit of performance anxiety as well because the jumps are exams in a way. Um, and there's also a financial implication because when you're learning, you need to jump out with two other people, and obviously that costs money as well. So if you don't perform, it can be quite challenging. So I was in my, room. I was like, damn it, trying to figure out a solution. And I was reading some stuff, and I found that the person who has broken the world record for the highest skydive, his name's Felix something or other. He jumped from a massive balloon up in space, um, and broke the sound barrier on the way down. But this person's a real professional. And in his experience and his stories there, he was sharing about um, how he was uncomfortable in his suit because he had to wear effectively like a space suit for his skydive. And one of the ways that he prepared mentally for this space suit space jump was through hypnotism. He went through hypnotism to help him become more comfortable in his spacesuit so that he could properly do his jump. I thought, well, if it's good enough for the world record highest jump, maybe it'll be good enough for me. And sure enough, it was.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting to hear about actually. Oh, so you've done
Yeah.
a bit of research about these things.
I did a bit of research. I was trying to figure out how I could possibly make it happen. Yeah, and
Yeah,
thank goodness I found out that someone else had had a similar experience.
yeah. So I guess if we looked at what were your specific goals that you wanted to achieve at that point, could you maybe talk a little bit more in detail about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So at the time, um, I just wanted to obviously overcome the fear and the emotional response that I was having, um, because you know I would be on the ground and I'd have this pit in my stomach, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do that again. Anything but that, please. So it was really just more of a practical solution at that time. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm guessing you obviously were kind of at that point training to perhaps do this for work, I'm guessing, or something along those lines. So that's pretty major if you are feeling that way and not able to kind of, yeah, that would be horrible if you were that nervous about training for your the thing that you're going to be doing, spending most of your time doing, apart from maybe sleeping or eating or whatever. But yeah, that definitely would be challenging.
Yeah, I was
So
very fearful. I was very nervous. It was,
yeah.
yeah.
So how long did it take for you? Like, how long were you feeling this way before you were able to kind of start looking for help or seeking help?
Um, well, as soon as I realized it was going to be an issue, I started looking at some options, and very, very quickly it seemed like hypnosis was a pretty viable option. And I explored um, a few hypnotherapists, um, but I think Annemieka's practice probably seemed the most professional, I would say.
Okay. And what made you feel that it felt most professional in comparison to others?
The website was pretty compelling. There wasn't anything irrelevant. Um, there wasn't any sort of mysticism involved. Um, and it just seemed like I got the impression it was a professional practice. Yeah.
That's great. It's really good. And so I guess what made you decide to kind of go forward or start seeking help from her? What did that kind of look like for you? What was that process like?
Um, well, I was looking for, because I was in such a compromising position, I was looking everywhere for any type of solution, because it would have been terrible if I couldn't actually complete the course and had wasted, weeks or months and however much money. Um, so I explored a few options, and very quickly was able to work with Annemieke and get some results.
Great, great. Was she able to offer you like a information session or a call or anything like that to just find out more about how the process worked?
Yeah, I'm sure she would have. She's been very generous with her time. There's never been any sort of pressure to commit to any sort of service, and I don't think that she would take on clients that weren't suitable. So,
Yeah, yeah, that's really good. Cool. And I guess what were some things that you worked on with Annemieke or that you worked on together that helped you get past the challenges and the frustrations that you had?
yeah. So, I found some of the practical exercises to be quite helpful. Um, there were definitely quite a few sort of uh, thought and physical practices that you could do to take away from the fear or anxiety. And those coupled with, first of all, just discussing the issue, and then obviously her suggestions as well, I think were pretty effective.
That's awesome. So there was kind of a range of different things you could, excuse me, take away, or a few different types of exercises that you could take away and put into
Definitely, it
place, or
it wasn't just sort of it wasn't just a conversation, and it wasn't just sort of subconscious ideas, and it wasn't just physical exercises. It was a combination of probably all three. And I found myself, there was a nice anchoring technique that she taught me, um, that I would do with my hands. So when the roller door opens and it's deafeningly loud and people are jumping out, I've got something to sort of bring you back to reality there. But it was definitely a combination of those exercises and conversations and everything else in between.
that's really cool. It sounds like it was quite customized, like it was quite tailored to what your needs were specifically. I'm
I would
guessing.
say I would say it was quite tailored. I was surprised, um, to be able to have something so relevant, which was really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And I guess with hypnotherapy, I get the sense that there are things like recordings out there and things like that that you can listen to. Was anything like that made available for you? Did you have recordings to take away from any of the sessions, or?
Yep, absolutely. Annemieke was able to record these sessions, and I was able to use them quite frequently, and I found that to be very helpful.
Oh, that's awesome. Nice. And I guess so. What kind of parts of your life or areas of your life or your circumstances have improved by being able to put these things in place, or after you've had hypnotherapy, how has that changed things for you?
Hmm. So for me, it wasn't like a lifelong issue that I was battling. It was just something really practical at that time, and I knew immediately that it was quite effective, and I'm glad that it worked because there aren't many other training avenues to overcome something like that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Just out of curiosity, did you have that same feeling of needing to feel comfortable in your suit that you were jumping in?
Say that one more time, sorry?
Did you have that same issue that you talked about, the guy that you had researched, that you need to feel comfortable in the suit that you were jumping in? Because I
Yeah,
imagine that's a lot of packaging and stuff like that.
it's a lot of equipment, yes. Um, the person I mentioned was obviously much more experienced than I am. Um, his was more, I guess, because he'd been in it for so long, and then all of a sudden was forced to wear a pressurized uh, compression suit that he felt constricted and claustrophobic. For me, I was just feeling absolutely terrified. And unfortunately, if you're terrified and your mind goes black, you can't do what's required. Um, so immediately, my performance, I actually got through. Um, I got through, I think, 7 successful jumps after I'd spent some time listening to the recordings and spent some time with Annemieke just in a single day. And I got my license very, very, very quickly. So I progressed a lot better than I thought I would have. Actually, yeah.
Wow, that's great. So just in a single day. Wow, how cool. So
Mm,
because you mentioned that you could figure out that it was sort of effective really quickly, and so could you maybe cast your memory back to that point and kind of just tell us a bit more about it? It was what made you realize, or what was the moment you kind of really knew that it was effective? And I guess how
mm.
did you figure that out?
Um, yeah, so I would say the first um, jump after my hypnosis, I was working through some of the exercises that Annemieke had given me. And like I say, when it comes to that particularly terrifying point, where the roller doors open, I was rehearsing those exercises, and I could feel, um, I didn't have as much sweat dripping from my hands, and I was, breathing a little bit slower. Um, so I knew at that point that the practicality of it, it was a good practical solution. Um, but then later on during the day, when I found um, myself performing, the maneuvers and what have you, quite well, that's when I sort of realized that um, it had a bigger effect than I might have first realized.
Oh, cool. That's awesome. What if they, so maybe a feeling in busy, you're like, I'm doing it, I'm doing it. I can do
Yeah,
this. That's cool. Very dramatic, very dramatic.
yeah, very much so.
Yeah, that's really cool that, yeah, it seemed to have quite a profound effect in that it sounds like you had a lot of control over what you were doing, and maybe it
Mm.
Maybe you even surprised yourself by that at the time. I'm not sure, but it
I
kind
think you're
of
right. I think so. Yes, I
kind
think
of
so.
sounds like it.
Hmm.
Yeah, cool. And if you don't mind me asking, whereabouts are you based? Like, which city are you based in?
Uh, I was in Auckland at the time, but I'm staying in Whangarei now.
Okay, right. And did you have services with Annemieke in person or online or?
No, we actually did Zoom appointments and telephone calls.
Wow, okay, cool. So this has been
Mm.
effective. You haven't even met Annemieke in person, but you've been
Correct.
able to meet her on Zoom and have phone calls and all the hypnotherapy still been effective through that
Hmm.
way.
I believe
Wow,
so. Yeah.
that's fantastic. And I think, from what I understand, I think she does most of her appointments and sees most of her clients online. So it's really good that it can be effective, so effective, and you can do it from the comfort of your own home if you wanted to, by the sounds of it. So,
Absolutely. I'd agree with that.
yeah, fantastic. And so, I guess, would you recommend that other people work with Annemieke?
Absolutely. I think if you can, if Annemieke was able to immediately have practical exercises and tailored hypnotherapy for me, then I'm sure that she could do the same for other people.
Yeah, yeah. It definitely doesn't sound like your average situation. And I say that with respect. I think it's such an exciting and, actually a brave thing that you did. So I really commend you for doing it. If I was in your position, I think I would totally be freaking out. I don't think I would quite make it to jump out, to be honest with you. But so
Well, it
yeah,
could have gone either way.
yeah, absolutely. And I guess, do you have any thoughts on who would be a good fit to work with Annemieke, or who she'd be a good fit for?
Um, well, I think a lot of people. I mentioned to her briefly, and I mentioned I had some health complications, but while I was undergoing or dealing with those health complications, I dealt with a large number of um, counselors and health improvement professionals and all sorts of people because I was in a really difficult position with a serious illness. And it occurred to me just recently, after very recently, that Annemieke was able to offer um, effectively. I'm not sure if she intended to or not, but a form of counseling that was on par or above a lot of these professionals that I'd seen in the past. So I'm sure for people like myself who need help with a practical issue, obviously effective. But for a lot of other people out there who are struggling with maybe emotional concerns or deep-seated uh, issues, you know, I think that should probably be pretty helpful for them as well.
That's great. That's really good to know.
Hmm.
And I guess anything else that you want to add, or that you feel we haven't covered off?
No, I'm a big fan of not only hypnotherapy but Annemieke herself. I think she's excellent, very helpful, very pragmatic, um, very creative, and solution oriented. She asks great questions, and I really enjoyed my experience. And yeah, I'm grateful for it.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us today. Really, really appreciate it. And yeah, we look forward to seeing what you choose to do in the future. And
Hmm.
we wish you all the best. Thank you again.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And thanks for your time.